Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Fratello Talks. I'm your host Nacho, and today I'm joined by
RJ
and a special guest, co-founder of Straum watches. Thank you for joining us today for the show, Øystein Husby. It's great to have you, and thanks for joining the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time coming. We've had a limited edition. I think it was probably a couple of years ago with you guys, and now there's something coming up. But obviously, before we get into all things Straum, and then also talking about what we've been cooking, let's do a little bit of wrist check. RJ, what is on your wrist?
Well, for the occasion, I'm wearing my own Straum. It's the limited edition that we did, indeed, with the red dial inspired by the volcano on the island, and with the integrated bracelet. I think it's a really cool watch.
Yeah,
I have to say I don't wear it that often because I have quite a few watches, but I like the integrated bracelet, and the red on the dial is really cool.
Yeah.
I will wear it next week to Japan.
Nice. You should. Yeah. There's some volcanoes on islands over there as well.
And they love red, so why not?
Perfect. And Øystein, what is on your wrist?
Yeah, so I also have the on Mayen, the blue version. Same integrated bracelet, also inspired by the trip that we did to Jan Mayen.
Cool.
Not the volcano, but the ocean
around it. Yeah. Very, very cool.
Very nice shade of blue.
That's super cool with the texture and slight vignette effect. It's
it draws you in.
It's a little more subtle than the red, I have to say. It's a little bit more toned down, but hey, some days you feel like being subtle, some days you feel like
a baller.
Being exactly. And I'm wearing actually what is now going to be announced today as the latest Fratello limited edition. But I think you should tell us about this. What is new here? What sets this apart from the first LE?
But perhaps first you can give a little bit of a background info on Straum as a brand.
Sure. Okay. So we'll leave my wrist check. We'll put my wrist check on ice, and we can get into.
I think that's a good idea for some of the listeners that are not familiar with the brand yet. Although I can't imagine, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. So tell us the story of Straum.
The Straum story.
So Straum is founded and run by me and Lasse, my friend and partner. We studied together in school. Started industrial design school master's program back in 2008. And so we went to school together. We then moved to sort of separate parts of the world. And eventually Lasse, he called me up and he asked me, hey, do you want to start something? And I was actually living in Singapore at the time. He was living in Norway. And I thought, yeah, sure, that sounds cool. Let's do that. And initially we actually had some ideas for camera equipment, like consumer electronic stuff. But what we realized was that for products like that, it's super hard to compete. Right. Because what happened at the time, and I'm sure it still happens, is that you design the product, you put it up on Kickstarter, you do a hopefully successful campaign, and typically you would ship that product in 3, 4, 5 months. But what happened was that within a month, some factory in China had copied your product and sold it at half the price on AliExpress or Amazon.
Right.
So we figured let's not go through that pain.
Yeah.
And so we thought let's build something that's where we're a bit more, I guess, protected against copycats, I guess is the fair way to describe it. And then we thought, okay, to do that, we should really build a brand that becomes a valuable asset for us. And we thought, okay, we also want to make products that are really personal. Consumer electronic products are not necessarily very personal. You tend to get it and you're satisfied with it, and then you dispose of it. And so watches, we realized, was a much more personal product, much more interesting product category for designers. So we decided, okay, let's do watches. And we knew nothing about watches at the time.
Even though you lived in Singapore.
Yeah.
Where there's no shortage.
Yeah, for sure. At the time, I had a friend who was really into watches, and I think that was part of why he moved to Singapore, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Access to the Patek boutiques. And I mean, this was in 2016, so things weren't as crazy as they are now.
Yeah. Definitely.
So,
what does Straum mean? Does it have a special meaning, the word?
Yeah. So in Norway, you have two official languages like Norwegian and New Norwegian. And in New Norwegian, it means current or flow.
Right.
Which ties quite directly to watches. And
right.
Nice.
So it was your studies in industrial design with Lasse that brought you guys together, and then starting this project. What were some of the first thoughts that you had getting into watches? Like, did you have a clear idea of what you wanted to get into then? Because obviously, jumping from camera equipment, consumer electronics to then watches it must have been quite a jump, especially like you said, when you don't have much of a background in it.
Yeah, it was certainly a big challenge for us. I think industrial designers are typically curious by nature and typically love solving problems and figuring out stuff. So we had that going for us, but obviously it is a long-standing tradition, so we certainly had the work cut out for us, but we just had to start learning, read up on watches, what is a chrono, what is a GMT. We didn't know this stuff when we started out, and then figuring out sort of, okay, what's our angle, what's the brand that we want to build, and we realized that we had really similar backgrounds. Lasse was always out in nature with his dad fishing and hunting, and I was the same. And so we realized that Norway and Norwegian nature is a very strong sort of common denominator for us. So we thought, okay, let's build something around that. And we just got going, really.
Cool. What were some of those first steps? What did some of those first steps look like? Did you guys try something? How were you integrating the idea of nature into some of your first designs?
Yes, I won't show you the sketches.
No, sure.
Because I'd be ashamed. But I remember initially we actually considered wood as a central material. Obviously, wood is it's actually a really bad material for watches because you have watches that are made completely out of wood, but there are 1,000 reasons why that's a bad idea. But we thought, okay, let's dials are sort of the most important part of a watch, arguably, or it's at least the focal point of it. So we thought, okay, maybe we can do something with wood, natural materials, ideally something with legacy or history.
Right.
And so that's why when we launched in 2021, we had the Rastarkarv, which was made from 3,300-year-old bogwood, the dial itself. Which was, I think, quite successful, but obviously it was also really challenging, especially when we just got into watches, basically doing wooden dials. So
I remember that watch was my first impression of the brand, for sure. I remember seeing that and thinking, whoa, that's a material that I've never seen, like fossilized wood for a dial before. I mean, we've seen a lot of, like you said, wood dials in the past. In the 70s, they were quite big. Even I think Cartier did some wooden cases. And then, of course, brands have used anything from granite to cheese and all kinds of stuff, right? Shout out to Moser and Tissot. But it's
concrete.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, more recently, right?
Yeah.
But it is interesting that like trying to bring something like nature and industrial design together. But I think you guys have really used the inspiration well and brought it together well.
So designing a watch is one thing. So let's say you have the design ready. Did you know where to go from there on? Did you know where to start, who to approach, where to get your movements, parts, etc.? Because if you're not familiar with the watch industry, I can imagine it's not easy.
No, it's not easy, it wasn't easy. It's still not easy, I guess. And no, we didn't know where to go, and we fumbled a lot in the beginning. And I mean, we started talking about this in 2017. Obviously, we all know what happened in 2019, end of 2019, with COVID. And the biggest challenge for us was finding suppliers. And not just a supplier, but one of the right ones. the ones that could execute your vision without just saying, forget it, this is too complicated. At obviously the price that you needed and also the quality. So I think that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And the problem with that challenge is that it takes a lot of time, because you find one, you commit, you start working together, you figure out after 4 months that, this is not going to work. Then you have to restart again. So it took us years really to go from sort of this is what we want to make to actually making it.
Did you encounter any moments where you thought, okay, let's just stop?
Yeah, I guess there were multiple moments along the way where passion runs out a bit, at least temporarily. But I think Lasse ascribes our success to perseverance and just like grit. None of us likes to give up, so we've just
the force was strong.
Yeah,
very good.
And so we've talked now a little bit about how you brought this inspiration from nature into your designs. What were some of the issues approaching like a watch, or some of the things that approaching a watch from the perspective of industrial design that you sort of thought, this gives us an opportunity here to maybe improve on something? Were there any points where you really thought like, oh yeah, let's solve this in a different way, especially from kind of starting from scratch?
Yeah. It was. Now my perspectives on those things have changed.
Right.
But
right.
I remember initially coming into and sort of analyzing the product category of watches. I was surprised by how like basic or simple some of the most popular products actually looked. And I think that had to do with primarily manufacturing methods.
Right.
If you look at a standard Rolex case, for example, it is typically the result of quite basic machining operations, right? It's stamping, it's machining, it's spinning them and finishing them off, right? In watches, you don't really see more complex surfacing, which you typically see in consumer products, right? Where you have the opportunity to make really elaborate molds and mold things out of plastic, right? You can do really complex free flow, doubly curved surfaces, etc. Also, you have it in cars, right? But in watches, the form language is heavily defined by the machining techniques,
right,
and the manufacturing. So I was surprised at that at first, and really wanted to push the envelope on those things. But we also quickly really realized why this is the case, right? Because doing complex surfacing requires way more machining time. It's far harder to get it right when you work with steel as a medium. So if you look at our most modern or most recent products, I think you'll see that we have, to a much larger extent, sort of embraced the manufacturing techniques.
Right.
And that obviously allows us to have much better finishings, distinction between surface finishings, etc. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I think maybe we can jump to the, well, no, let's talk first about some of the iterations that you've done, because obviously you started with the Jan Mayen, and then there you've really focused very much on once you had the case shape established, and once you then introduced the bracelet, you've been kind of lately just having a lot of fun with dials, right? So tell us about some of the different dial shapes that you've done, because I think people are familiar with the I guess this is the volcano inspired. It's more of like a concentric shape, but then you also have some inspired by different elements of nature, and some using quite interesting techniques. So tell us a little bit about some of the dials that you've been creating.
Yeah, so the most recent ones that we did was the Arctic models that has that sort of 12-6 linear pattern.
Yeah, right.
Which is different, obviously, from the ones that you mentioned, the red and the blue, which has radial sort of concentric patterns, right? And so I think, like you say, we've started playing a bit more with textures, with colors. I think as designers and perhaps also Norwegians, we tend to be a bit more conservative, and we've also wanted to craft a brand that feels authentic and real. So we've been thinking, okay, let's stick to colors that we can find in nature and justify and sort of explain well to customers. But I think we're daring to go a bit more out of the most conservative colorways and textures. So we're having lots of fun with that. And I think, the Arctic models are, I think it's a nice, good addition to our core lineup.
Yeah. And you also did these, I think they were called the Basalt models, right?
Yeah.
Those were really incredible as well, using this, I don't know if it was like a special technique to create this, almost like volcanic stone kind of texture to them.
Yeah.
How did those come about?
Yeah, so when we went to Jan Mayen in 2022,
22.
I believe so, yeah.
Right.
Well, obviously I encourage everyone to go and check out. We made a mini documentary about that trip. It's about a 12-minute video of our adventure, where we started from Svalbard way up north, sailed for 5 days, went to that island, climbed the volcano, glacier-clad volcano from basically sea level to 2,300 meters.
Okay.
24 hours on the run. And then we also then brought back actual volcanic rocks from that island.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And so those are the actual rocks that you see inside the Basalt watch.
Right.
And so what we did was we sliced them up into super thin wafers. This was it took us more than a year to figure this stuff out. And we understand now why people haven't done Basalt watches in the past, because they're incredibly complicated. And so what we had to do was slice them really thin. Then we had to stabilize them with resin, then grind them down to 0.3 millimeter thickness.
Okay.
And then sandwich it between, mineral glass, etc. And so that was really complicated, but the end result is, we think, really exciting, and it is truly a sort of a slice of nature, and it's what you're seeing is the actual rock itself.
Right.
And as you cut these rocks, obviously you expose different patterns, and
for sure,
so every dial is unique. Yeah.
It's a little bit like anytime you use a natural material, there's always going to be that variation, right? So that's interesting. So how did it's kind of taking a step back, but how did you go from, how did you land on the Jan Mayen name for the watch? And was the expedition already something you had in mind, or was that something that then kind of came out after you landed on it as the name and you thought, well, we should actually go to the place where the name comes from?
Yeah, so both Lasse and I knew about Jan Mayen as an island. I mean, it has a sort of a mystic status almost in Norway, because it's an offshore territory that is owned by Norway, but very few people go there. We have like some military presence and some like a weather station, basically.
Right.
And so Lasse and I have always been keen on going there. And then obviously for the Jan Mayen, we started collaborating with Fratello on that model. And Jan Mayen as an island, showed up quite early in those conversations.
Cool.
And we realized also that this island it's a beautiful place. It's otherworldly. It has fantastic scenery, colors, textures, etc. So it was a perfect place to find inspiration for us.
Yeah. It was incredibly successful to watch. We don't disclose numbers, but it was way more successful than we would have expect, basically.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Great watch.
Yeah, and I think that kind of is the perfect segue to then talk about what's on my wrist, right?
Yeah.
Which is I guess the Straum X Fratello Jan Mayen 2.0, and this time in a different material. So you can tell us a little bit about all of the things that are new here, because there's quite a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, where to start? I think for this one here, right, the dial is the same texture and color as the original that we launched, although slightly improved. So we've improved the fidelity and the sort of height, etc. But other than that, most of it is new. And what you're seeing is a titanium grade 5 case, finished microblasted and polished accents. So much the same as the steel version, but instead of brushed surfaces, we have bead blasted. And then it sits on our completely new rubber straps that we've developed with all grade 5 hardware on that buckle. And then it has our new Straum coupling system. And so this is a way for us to carry on the signature mid-link that we have on our bracelet into rubber straps. And so there's a coupling piece there that integrates the rubber with the case. And it also has a quick release system.
With a very subtle kind of pusher, right?
Yeah.
It's really nicely done.
That pusher is we spent a lot of time getting that just right as well. We want to have one that makes it relatively easy to take off, but also doesn't sort of promote accidental engagement in the mechanism.
Easy, but not too easy. You don't want it to...
I really don't like these pins often on the quick release
the usual traditional system, which are these little sort of where you can grip them with your fingernail and everything.
Mushroom-like shape. Oh, it looks really nice. That's the same La Jouperet movement, I guess.
Correct. It's the G101 no date. And so
beautiful.
The rubber straps are they have a bunch of sort of features packed into them. One key thing that you might see there is that if you look at the long strap, we've actually bent the tip in the mold. And that's just a way to avoid this sort of annoying tip that flares out.
Exactly.
True. Especially if you have a slightly smaller wrist, that tends to extend and stick out quite far. Keepers do a decent job of it, but you'll find that it integrates really nicely with the wrist. Lots of subtle details.
The watch looks suddenly much more sporty than the
for sure.
Fratello one.
Even though you still have those polished chamfers and polished accents, I think it's a mix of the matte surface and the titanium being a darker metal that just gives it this really, and obviously the rubber strap just gives it a really nice sort of sporty quality. But I have to say I love the way that the matte texture of the strap then matches the case. I was playing with the integration system earlier, and it's really really well done. Just at a quick push, you can remove the strap and put it back on, and it just kind of change it. I mean I know that the strap is molded sort of also into the hardware, right? So like the metal elements of the strap are molded directly into it, right?
So this is FKM rubber, obviously, gold standard for watch straps. And like you point out, there's what we call an overmolded piece here that sits inside. And then I can show you. So the coupling piece is really, it's a really small piece, but it packs in all the functionality that you need. And it latches on to the spring bar. And then once you insert the strap, it engages the mechanism and actually locks everything in place.
It's super satisfying. There's a great click to it, and then once it's on, it feels really solid. And like we were talking about this earlier, there's no button that can accidentally, if it's on the wrist and you turn your wrist in a strange way, or you have a particularly protruding wrist bone, it's not gonna cause it to come off. But I think it looks fantastic. And
what's the price on the new watch for listeners and viewers?
So it's for the titanium on rubber, it's basically around the $2,000 mark.
Cool. Is there a plan to eventually have a titanium bracelet? Cool.
We are working on that.
Very nice.
Titanium bracelets are harder to do than steel.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you introduce micro adjust mechanisms.
for sure.
because the friction of coated titanium just it makes things more challenging.
Yeah.
So at the time when we released the Fratello watch together with you guys, there was no quick release on the bracelet, but now there is.
Yeah.
So you can swap it out.
Yeah.
I have the new one on my desk, so I need to do so. Although I don't use micro adjustment myself a lot, also in the watches that already have it. I think my wrist is very fat stable, so that's good. And I tend to wear my watch relatively loosely anyway.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, it's a nice feature because it's one of the things that is so much in demand these days. It needs to have a micro adjust in the clasp, and some of the big brands, they still don't do it.
Yeah, true.
But it's smaller brands, micro brands, independents that are really strong on this.
This is really paving the
feature.
way, paving the way with innovation. But I think that obviously talking about the watch is one thing, but you guys have also been doing a lot of. I point here at our table because you've been doing a lot of innovation also with packaging, right? I mean, it's tell us a little bit about what you guys have been doing there.
Yeah. So as industrial designers, I guess it's both a strength and a weakness. We also look at the experience beyond just the watch itself. So every Jan Mayen today comes with a capsule. We call it the capsule, which is a carrying case that protects your watch. And we're now working on version 2 of that, which will make it more compact. We'll pack in even more functionality, dedicated areas for storing your tools, etc. And then we're also working on our whole packaging system. And again, this is coming from a background of industrial design, designing products that are sold in the hundreds of thousands or millions of units. You have to think of packaging. You have to think of keeping costs and environmental impact down. Apple, perhaps the most famous example of that, right?
Yeah.
When they reduced their packaging for the iPhone by 2 millimeters, they save, I don't know how many tons of carbon. And so we want to make our contribution to that. And so our new straps and bracelets will come in paper pulp and completely paper packaging. The only non-paper part of it is a sticker and some rubber bands. And that's our way of caring for the planet. And just we think it's a great system and it's going to look great as well.
Did you get any feedback from customers that are appreciative of this? Is it feedback in general from customers that they say, okay, let's go for something that's more sustainable, or is it purely driven by you?
I think it's mostly driven by us. I think customers have varying opinions on packaging. Some really enjoy the wooden boxes that you often get with watches. Some find it maybe a bit troublesome and don't really know where to store them and have a box under their bed or in the garage where they put it. Some brands obviously do fantastic boxes where you want to put them on the shelf. Our goal is for the capsule to be something that you use when you go traveling and really use it to protect your watch. And so, we put a lot of thought into that. And then I guess the common way for micro brands to do packaging is typically Ziploc bags or that kind of packaging that you would usually get from the factory. They would propose something, right? And they are typically incentivized to propose the cheap, but also not necessarily the more environmentally friendly option. And so, we think it makes sense for us to do it.
And talking about your customers a bit more, do you have a lot of returning customers? Are there Straum collectors?
There are.
Meanwhile.
Nice.
Yeah, which it warms our heart. We're still so new that it surprises us to see customers owning, 4, 5, 6, 7 Straum watches.
Should say Straum.
Yeah.
Straum. Straum.
But yeah, it means a lot to us, and we're
Yeah.
really happy to see it, and we really
Nice.
appreciate the support.
Yeah,
Very
cool.
cool. It's nice to have both sides when it comes to the packaging, where you have something that's like really easy to return to the environment in a way that it's biodegradable and easy to sort of like low impact, and then you also have the capsule, which is I mean, I can't think of something that feels safer to have your watch in than a relatively thick-walled aluminum cylinder, right? I mean, this thing looks like you could really run it over with a tank, and it would be completely fine. So nothing that the airport staff can throw at it is gonna do anything, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's it's a really really cool approach.
Yeah.
So another thing that I think people, speaking of customers that might be, or potential customers that might be wondering. Where are some places that people might be able to see your watches? Because I think I understand that you and Lasse are touring around a little bit throughout the year as well, right? You're attending some of the fairs.
We are, yeah. First one coming up is on Friday or Saturday in London, hands-on horology.
Yeah.
And then we're attending Wind Up in Chicago
Yeah.
Okay.
in July.
July, yeah.
And then Intersect in LA the weekend after.
Okay.
I'll be there for both those fairs.
Cool.
And then Wind Up in New York.
October, right?
October, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're looking at the rest of the year and the calendar and hoping to attend even more. Obviously, for us, it's really important for prospective customers to actually try on our watches. Yeah. Most of our sales are online, and online sales, or sort of the online shopping experience, can only get you so far.
Yeah.
So it's great to let people try them. And then, of course, we have to balance it also with the time it takes for us to go, because we're just two guys running this company. So a day spent at a fair is a day that we can't work on the next model, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Good.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we can maybe wrap it up with some information on this, because obviously this is the big highlight. This is out today, well, tell us where people can get a hold of it, and just so let the people know where they can get their hands on this, the latest model, if they would like.
Yeah, sure. So you can buy them online at our web store. It's straum.co, available from today and for 1 week for the red version.
Yeah.
And our core collection models are also available in titanium. The rubber and couplings are also available for the steel models. So it expands the portfolio for
Nice.
existing products as well. And we will have leather straps coming out as well, and lots of other strap accessories coming down the line. So yeah, exciting stuff. I think we'll be sure to put some links in the article so people can people know where to go. And it's been really great. I don't know if you have any more questions.
Yeah, perhaps you can. Will there be something totally different in the future of Straum?
What would you classify as totally different?
A very different model than what we see today. Or is it so successful that you say, hey, this is our core collection, this will be there forever?
No, I think the short answer is yes. Okay. We're working on models that are quite different and challenging us in new ways.
Yeah. Get more returning customers, collectors on board.
Hopefully, yeah. And I think we're getting even sort of deeper into the watch world, and working even more with movements, etc. As we learn more, we can do more, and that's exciting for us.
Yeah.
So we're having lots of fun with new models.
Nice.
Cool. Exciting stuff. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this show, and I think we can wrap it up there. We usually do a comment of the week, but not for these special guest episodes. So we'll just say thank you for joining us, and I think that's it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, as always, and join us next week for another episode of Fratello Talks. See you then.
Good.
Nice. Perfect.
Awesome.